Anyway, with all this news going on, everything that's in the news cycle this week, I couldn't think of a more perfect guest to have on this program than my friend Seth Dillon, the CEO of Babylon B, a company that has sure seen its share of shadow banning and full out banning. Seth, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me on.
So I love your website. You know that. I've told you that many, many times before. I need that sort of levity, right? Given everything that's going on. But you guys went through HELL and back over the last couple of years, like many of us did. But what was unusual about your situation, and I'd like you to speak to it a little bit. I also want to talk a little bit about the business of conservative media with you, because you are such an entrepreneur on that front. You've had to deal with this censorship in a way that is pretty extraordinary, even when it comes to humor. What's that been like?
Well, I mean, we faced a number of challenges with our humor. You know, one of the things, which is kind of a funny one that doesn't really fit in with the censorship, but it has been a challenge nonetheless, is that half the time we make these jokes, they end up coming true. And so you have the situation where they're like fulfilled prophecies instead of punchlines. We have a spreadsheet where we're tracking them now. We have like 90 plus jokes that have come true, which is just kind of a crazy sign of the times. I don't know if that's funny or disconcerting. I guess you can look at it either way.
Disconcerting for sure.
Yeah,
you guys,
disconcerting.
You guys are futurists in a way.
Yeah, but you know, it started out for us. The censorship really started. We experienced it in 2018 initially. You know, Facebook was facing a lot of pressure to crack down on misinformation. Basically, the idea was Zuckerberg was responsible for Trump getting elected because he let conservatives talk too much. You know, God forbid conservatives have a platform, you might end up with a Republican getting elected. So, you know, they were trying to crack down on the spread of misinformation. They started fact-checking things. They started working with partners like Snopes. And next thing you know, we ended up getting our jokes fact-checked. We had the first one that was a really big deal was the CNN purchases industrial-sized washing machine to spin the news before publication. That was a joke of ours, which is just silly. And it's like the image there is just this big washing machine with the CNN logo across the front of it. Snopes rates it falls. Facebook threatens to kick us off the platform if we keep spreading fake news. So, you know, we've been ever since then when that started. We were dealing with this issue of our jokes continually getting fact-checked, getting flagged for incitement to violence, getting flagged for hateful conduct. That's been happening left and right. And now
does it happen to the Onion, by the way? Because like, let's not forget, like the left has a version of this as well, which, by the way, is nowhere near as funny. I'm just going to say, but they've got the Onion. You guys are Babylon B, and yet you're getting subjected to this stuff.
It does happen in a sense. So they do fact check the Onion sometimes, and the Onion has viral jokes that you know, that people think are true, and so they do get fact checked. The difference is when they get fact checked, you know, the fact check is usually framed in terms of, oh, well, it's the Onion. It's a funny satire site. You should laugh. With us, it was different. With us, the fact checks were treated as, you know, they're trying to dupe you. They've gotten away with this before. It's a ruse. It's a trick. It's misinformation under the guise of satire. That's how it was approached with us. And even the New York Times jumped on that. They called us a far-right misinformation site that traffics in misinformation under the guise of satire. So we had the media working with big tech to try to suggest that we're not an entertainment site, a comedy site. We are a misinformation, disinformation, propagandist outlet that's trying to pull one on people.
I heard a rumor that Elon Musk may have purchased Twitter because of you guys. Weren't you banned over there too?
We got kicked off of Twitter about a year ago. You know, we made a joke that they consider punching down, which is a really interesting conversation to have about what exactly is punching down. And is it, I hear it all the time now. The first rule of comedy is don't punch down. And that's new to me. I thought the first rule of comedy was be funny, right? Isn't the first thing you're supposed to do is make people laugh and come? No, the first rule now is don't punch down, which means don't make fun of people who are beneath you. And I don't know. It's the wildest thing, like to sit there and think to yourself, I shouldn't joke about those people. They're beneath me. I mean, it's just it's so condescending and awful to like have that thought cross your mind. But yeah, if you joke about certain protected groups, the marginalized, the oppressed, you're punching down. We made a joke about Rachel Levine, the health admiral in the Biden administration. USA Today had named Rachel Levine Woman of the Year. Mm-hmm. And so we replied to that with a satirical joke in defense of women and humanity, by the way.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir on that one.
Yeah,
As a
Rachel
woman.
Levine. We said Rachel Levine is our pick for Man of the Year.
Oh, hey,
So that was
it's fair game,
that was
right?
misgendering. It was hateful conduct, according to Twitter, and so that's what got us in Twitter jail. And they wanted us. Look, it was a situation where it wasn't just censorship. I mean, censorship would have been if they said, "Look, this joke violates our terms. We're going to delete it and take it down." They didn't do that. They actually said you need to delete it and admit that you engaged in hateful conduct. So we refused to do that because we said, look, first of all, this joke is rooted in the truth. We don't believe that men can become women. The truth isn't hate speech. We're not taking this down. It's the truth and it's a joke. So no, you can take it down if you want to. So we were at kind of like this stalemate with Twitter where we were stuck in Twitter jail because we wouldn't censor ourselves, which I feel like is subjugation, not just mere censorship.
Elon noticed this. I mean, I know that he follows you guys. He loves your stuff. I've seen him retweet it. I think he's a brilliant guy, and I'm very hopeful that he can fix this insanity of censorship that's really going on in America right now with the Twitter purchase. But yeah, I mean, apparently he wasn't too happy about that, among many, many other things.
Yeah. Well, the Washington Post reported that his first day in office as CEO, he said he issued an urgent directive and said, bring back the Babylon Bee. So it was pretty cool to have him in our corner and fighting for, and what he tweeted almost right away was comedy is now legal again. So he loves humor. You see him post these memes all the time. He likes jokes. He's been a fan of the Bee for a long time. He sat down with us on our podcast back at the end of 2021. I'm often asked, did he buy Twitter just to free you guys from Twitter jail? And I would never say that was the only reason that he did it. I think it was just one of the reasons. It was obvious to him that we have a speech problem. First of all, you have wokeness, which he thinks is a terrible mind virus, spreading rampantly, and the inability to push back on it because we don't have free speech anymore in the public square. And so he sees this terrible threat to civilization in terms of the ideas, the bad ideas that are spreading, and then this heavy-handed censorship that's happening, sometimes with government collusion, sometimes just these private companies doing what they want to do, but essentially controlling the public square and controlling what you're allowed to say and what you're allowed to think, which is also a problem. And so he wanted to step in and solve that problem. And the Babylon Bee was just kind of symptomatic of what was really going on there at the root.
No, for sure. And I appreciate that he was willing to pay $44 billion to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that the Delaware court made sure it happened.
Yeah.
Anyway, the business of new media right now, you have been on the cutting edge, really, as an entrepreneur, as someone who's investing in new media projects. But simultaneously, you're confronting the censorship threat. So what is that like as an investor?
On the one hand, it's a huge threat to the business. We've had our email service provider kick us off. Obviously, we've had problems with social media. We've had a lot of concerns about whether or not we're going to have issues with payment processing. There's constantly risk involved with doing what we do because, again, if a simple joke like saying that Rachel Levine is a man is considered hateful conduct, and hateful conduct is a violation of the terms of service of these various platforms, then you're running the risk of suspension everywhere that you're operating, everywhere that you're doing business, and so. It's a challenging time to be speaking the truth to the culture, even in jest, which is a crazy thing to think about. But while it is a threat to the business on the one hand, because there's risk there, on the other hand, all of the efforts up to this point to suppress our voice have amplified it. And so there really is a sense in which this controversy is fuel for the business because it draws so much more attention to us. It backfires on them. Every time they do this, Twitter taking down our account and telling us we had to delete that joke, that attracted the attention of the richest man in the world who ended up buying Twitter. So it's like, it's backfired on them in so many different ways. We've grown, our following has grown substantially, our traffic is up substantially. So we're better known and more widely shared and more widely read than we ever have been as a result of the efforts to suppress us. So,
that's good news. I mean, that's a silver lining, and that says a lot about America and Americans. Because they don't appreciate the censorship either. Good. No, I mean, I think that's it's a victory for those in the conservative space, but there's a bigger question here. And I look at, for example, the ESG environment, BlackRock controlling nearly the size, right? Assets under management of US GDP. These guys have a lot of say in what Americans are allowed to invest in effectively. And so it's almost as though, just like you say, and this is sort of small level, but you think about it on a bigger level, people are coming and finding you and they are loyal to you. And that is excellent. Well, what happens with the overall economy, right? If this continues and you've got big corporations that are getting shut down because of this, well, you're not sensitive enough to this, that, and the other. You don't have enough transgenders on your board of directors or enough whatever. Then don't we run the risk as a society of not keeping our edge, our capitalist edge, which has made us the success we are?
Yeah, I think all of those efforts are completely self-defeating. And really what's going to make the difference is how people push back on it and how people respond. Where do they spend their money? Are they willing to actually vote with their dollars and take their business elsewhere when they start seeing this stuff being shoved down their throats? A lot of it depends on the individuals, and in our case, with this situation where you have these woke ideas or policies or whatever that you have to abide by, the ideology is baked into the terms of service, you have to agree to it. Alternative platforms that don't play by those rules and don't enforce those kinds of rules are going to become more and more popular. I think the biggest challenge when it comes to speech is that there aren't really alternatives. The reason that the Musk acquisition was so important and so notable is because he took over a platform that everybody is on. This is, one of these town square type platforms with hundreds of millions of users. And so, you can't really build an easy alternative to that. He didn't go create one himself. Parler tried, Gab has tried, all these other Getter, all these other platforms have tried to do this, but they're not a town square in the sense that everybody is on them. They're like a ideological echo chamber where you're just talking to your friends and family. So it's a real big challenge in the social media space where you want to be involved in the conversation because there aren't alternatives. There has to be protection basically for us to be able to have our political viewpoints where we're not discriminated against for the views that we're expressing. And whether that comes from some kind of a court order or changes to the law, it'll be really interesting to see. There are laws right now. There's one that was passed in Texas and it was upheld by the Fifth Circuit Court that just simply makes it illegal for these platforms to engage in viewpoint discrimination. It doesn't force them to speak. It doesn't stop them from speaking. It's not a First Amendment issue for them. All it does is prevent them from discriminating against their users. They can't censor and call it speech.
Yeah, I think it's the biggest issue of our time. I really do. Seth Dillon, you're on the front lines of it. Thank you so much for joining us today. Everybody should go to the website. I mean, if you have, I'm assuming that my viewership knows this, but if they don't, please go to the Babylon Bee. You'll laugh. I promise you will laugh. And you guys have a podcast as well.
We do. Yeah.
And you'll laugh there too.
Yeah, it's been described as lengthy and audible.
Excellent. Hey, Seth, great to see you. Thank you so much for your time.